You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely. Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Education News. It's March 20th, 2023, and we are live at paceradio.net and at cbgtv.com. I got it. I had it written out for me, my intro today, because it's so strange. It's just me. It's Reverend Kelly. Where is Al? Well, he'll be late this morning, but he will be along shortly. You're just stuck with me. So we're going to, normally we would banter a little bit about what's coming up, and we do have CannExpo that we need to talk about a little bit later in the day. That's happening in Toronto. But I'm just going to start with the news, and I'm going to read it, and hopefully Al will join us with his commentary. It's not even that I'm reading the news, I'm putting up all these stories today as well. So let's try. Okay. So usually Al reads the title and then I follow. So I'm just going to do everything today. Just stay with me. Medical cannabis use has doubled in the U.S., the study from a Department of Veterans Affairs officials finds. Okay, I'm going to go like this. Okay. Oh, look, a little pop-up. Okay. A new study looking at data from a federally funded survey found the prevalence of medical cannabis use more than doubled in the United States between 2013 and 2020, and that's driven largely by state-level legalization. Now, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, which has been conducted annually since 1971, added a question about medical cannabis in 2013, specifically asking whether any cannabis use within the past 12 months was recommended by a doctor. Now, during the first year, 1.2% of respondents answered affirmatively. 7 years later, that figure had risen to 2.5%. My goodness. Now, the authors of the study, Greg Ree and Robert Rosenhag, both affiliated with the Yale School of Medicine's Psychiatric Department and the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, New England Mental Illness Research, Education, and Clinical Center. So they calculated that the proportion of Americans using medical cannabis during the 7-year period grew at an average rate of 12.9% each year. Wow. This is a great study. Now, the study documents a continued nationwide increase in use of cannabis for diverse medical purposes between 2013 and 2020. That says the paper. Now, it was published this week as a pre-proof for the American Journal of Preventive Medicine. Living in a state that legalized medical cannabis remain significantly associated with greater odds of medical cannabis use. Now, other variables highlighted by the report as having significant associations with medical cannabis use included being aged 18 to 25, being male, never being married, having completed some college education, and being uninsured. Such associations, however, do not mean these groups were more likely to have used medical cannabis, nor did they necessarily see greater increases in prevalence of use over the 7-year study period. The observed associations only mean these groups' trends over time were the most statistically significant interactions with survey years. Okay. So in terms of health insurance status, for example, the prevalence of medical cannabis use among uninsured people actually increased the slowest over the 7-year time frame compared to other groups, including those on private insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, or other. But the change over time was the least likely due to the chance. Okay, so when the uninsured is interacting with time, survey years, the effect is actually smaller, was significant, Ree explained. Rees said that the study doesn't attempt to describe how state level transitions from medical only legalization laws to broader adult use legalization may have affected medical cannabis use. Unfortunately, it's outside the scope of analysis because we were not able to distinguish states by legalization status. That comes from him directly. Now, the study also analyzed medical cannabis use by respondents who said they experienced certain medical conditions, quoted as saying clinical relevant subgroups that experienced significantly greater odds of medical cannabis use included poor self-rated health statuses, past year major depressive episodes, cocaine use disorder, and non-use of prescription pain relievers. Wow. Now, the authors write that the association of medical cannabis use with depression, cocaine use disorder, and non-medical use of pain relievers suggest that it may have either been prescribed for those conditions or used on patient initiatives for these problems. So they used it themselves. Wow. The study repeatedly points to a lack of conclusive health data on the risks and benefits of cannabis, a takeaway that Lee also emphasized. He says medical cannabis is increasingly used, but long-term medical benefits and harms are not clearly known for multiple medical conditions because they haven't been doing studies long enough. Hello. Study claiming that cannabis does not generally lead to overdose death. Yep. And several unintended consequences have been documented. Well, we haven't heard any. What do we say? Natural cannabis. No death from natural cannabis. Of course, we have those gross synthetic cannabises that are making people sick. So that's the end of that one. And we're going to close that. Let's see if we can do it so easily. This is my first time doing this. I'm very excited. Share this tab instead. Did it work? It did. Okay. This one, the title says, Sea Dog Farm becomes the first Sun+Earth certified cannabis grower in Canada. Look at that magic. Look at magic garden right there. Okay. So a Vancouver Island outdoor cannabis farmer is the first in Canada to have their cannabis certified through Sun+Earth Certified. That's a US-based not-for-profit third-party certification for regenerative organic cannabis. Ooh, this is good stuff. Sea Dog Farm is located in Saskatchewan, I'm going to say it like that, British Columbia, and it's a 5-acre property about an hour outside of Victoria, where Sean and Katie Connolly grow cannabis, as well as fruits and vegetables and berries and eggs and herbs, and they cut flowers using a no-till, regenerative, I'm going to figure that regenerative organic method. Their outdoor micro cannabis farm is licensed for 200 square meters at the back of their small but lively property. I need to see it again. Look at that. Wow. Fruits and vegetables all alongside cannabis. We chose to pursue Sun & Farm certification because we believe it is essential to use both organic and regenerative practices in our stewardship of the land and while we grow for our community. That's Sea Dog Farm co-owner Katie Connolly says. Also saying Sun+Earth Seal will help our customers identify products that were grown using methods that help to sequester carbon and build healthy soil and don't use fossil fuels or petroleum-based chemical fertilizers. Yay! As more consumers become aware of the devastating impact indoor cannabis has on our planet. Oh my goodness. They're saying it here. We hope that they will choose ethical and sustainable products. Absolutely important. Katie Connolly has been an outspoken member of the Canadian cannabis community, helping to educate policymakers at the challenges facing small-scale cannabis growers, speaking at industry conferences and hosting farm tours. Through British Columbia's direct delivery program that allows small-scale BC cannabis growers to ship products directly to retailers, Sea Dog Farm has been able to launch its sun-grown pre-rolls into select retail stores across the province. Oh my goodness, I have to find these. Sun+Earth was founded in 2019 and currently counts more than 70 Sun+Earth certified cannabis farms and manufacturers across several U.S. states, as well as now British Columbia. As the name implies, the standards require that crops to be sun-grown and grown using techniques that help rebuild the soil, all without the use of synthetic fertilizers or pesticides. Oh, I love it. Standards also encourage the planting of cannabis alongside food crops and the use of cover crops, composting, and reduced soil tillage. Sun+Earth strives to certify farms where cannabis can be grown under the sun, in the earth, and without toxic chemical inputs. And Sun+Earth certified director Andrew Black says Sea Dog Farm is the first Sun+Earth certified cannabis farm in Canada, but hopefully not the last, continued Black. Sun+Earth aims to point the cannabis industry across borders in a cleaner, healthier, and more ethical direction, and provides needed support for struggling small-scale farmers in our regenerative organic community. I love these guys. They're so important. Oh, and there's more pictures coming up. The use of the term organic in the cannabis space in Canada has been a bit of a Wild West situation, with little oversight of the term, due in part to the lack of federal Canadian standards. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency doesn't allow cannabis or other non-food products to be certified organic under their own organic standards, nor can it bear the Canada Organic logo. Why? Terrible. Instead, many third-party agencies provide varying levels of organic certification based on internal standards. That's not fair. Oh, I hope that changes. In addition to Sun+Earth cannabis companies in Canada, cannabis companies in Canada can receive organic certification under organics such as Pacific Agricultural Certification Society, Fraser Valley Organic Producers Association, EcoCert, and ProCert. So they have to go privately. Each organization has its own standards and enforcement methods to ensure the compliance with those standards. See, that's a nice picture. That's them right there. They're so passionate about this. Tomatoes alongside cannabis. How wonderful. Organic cannabis is also in high demand. Absolutely it is, at least according to an online poll from before legalization in 2017. It showed 57% of Canadian medical consumers and 43% of recreational consumers cared about such a distinction. Nonetheless, the amount of cannabis companies with some form of organic certification remains just a small handful of the more than 900 production licenses across the country. But for the consumers seeking out these products, this can mean greater certainty of the methods behind production than just the term organic. I know myself, when I am looking for cannabis, I choose organic if I can, certainly. And actually, when I'm choosing cannabis that's not at a store, from that market, I also am requesting that I find organic cannabis. So good on them. I'm glad to see that they're doing this. Let's bring up the next story. Share this tab instead. Again, Al's going to be a little bit late this morning. He is coming along shortly, so you're stuck with Reverend Kelly for a little bit. Just me. Here we go. I'm doing two jobs today. I have never done this before. I'm excited. Okay. With cannabis cultivator cap lifted, growers face New Jersey challenges. See, when you're stuck with me, you get it sort of like you're watching a movie. Dun, dun, dun. Let's see. Who's the villain here? New Jersey is no longer limiting the number of cannabis cultivation licenses, and entrepreneurs are looking forward to supplying the East Coast cannabis market as production ramps up. However, up-and-coming growers in New Jersey face significant obstacles, including a majority of municipalities that have opted out of permitting cannabis businesses. Ooh, we have a few of those in Ontario, too. A competitive market for limited, expensive industrial real estate, and the challenges raising capital in a tough lending environment. Ooh, big obstacles. Okay, so for cultivators who can overcome those headwinds, an attractive market awaits. Will Perry is the CEO of Oregon cultivator Magic Hour Cannabis. I like that name. It's working to launch production in New Jersey. It's teaming up with local partner Jersey Shore Ventures Group, and that has access to necessary real estate. Excellent. So, Oregon cannabis prices have crashed, with the median wholesale price hitting $599 per pound in February. Wow. Now, in New Jersey, however, Perry expects a minimum cannabis that could earn $4,500 per pound. What? What? I don't know anywhere else where there's such a high population, and also factoring in people from New York are also bordering states like Pennsylvania. There's 30 plus million people. And these are all people that have more expendable income than the average person in Oregon. Why? Ooh, okay. So they're going to buy $4,500 pounds. That's a lot. I think you can get pounds for hundreds of dollars now, just saying. Cultivator cap has dropped. New Jersey's 2-year cap that limited cultivation licenses to 37 was included in legislation enacted in 2021, although the restriction didn't apply to micro cultivators. The state's adult use cannabis market launched in April 2022, with only 7 cultivators supplying 13 adult use retailers. Amid industry concerns over limited supply, the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission has decided not to renew the cap when it expired in February, so just last month. CRC Executive Director Jeff Brown told MJ Biz Daily that the decision was made in part because there's plenty of room in the market for more cultivation. Now, Brown said New Jersey has far fewer than the average number of cultivation licenses found in any other state where adult use cannabis is legal. The market has a long way to grow here. All indicators show that we need more cultivation here. Now, the CRC reported 415 cultivation license applications as of February 13th. And as of March 14th, New Jersey had 17 operational cultivators and 25 annual licenses on their way to becoming operational. New Jersey Cannabis Business Association President Edmund DeVoe said the state's medical cannabis patients have already expressed concerns, if not complaints, about quantity and quality. It's getting spicy. Told you we're doing a movie. So now that we have an adult use industry on top of our medical industry, those concerns and those criticisms continue, he says. DeVoe is hopeful that new cultivation facilities will come online this year, especially with the availability of micro business licenses for smaller growers. It might be a little easier and quicker time from seed to sale by using the micro license category, he said. Now, Darren Chandler Jr., co-founder and president of conditionally licensed New Jersey cultivator and manufacturer Premium Genetics, said retailers tend to have the same products from the same small group of operational growers. He says by us getting more cultivators online, we're going to get a robust market, and you're going to have more competition, and you're going to have better quality, of course. You're going to try upping each other, right? Now, would-be cultivators face several converging business challenges in New Jersey. Raising capital for cannabis is tough there, just as it is in any other state. On top of that, New Jersey's local governments have significant powers, and many municipalities have opted out of hosting cannabis businesses. And according to the CRC, 179 municipalities had opted in and 380 had opted out. Wow, that's a lot. The complications that search for cultivation and manufacturing space in New Jersey's tight industrial real estate market. So there's so many complications here. Municipality says no, then the rich ones are too rich. Some property owners don't want to work with the cannabis industry simply because of the federal laws, and that makes available real estate even slimmer. Of course it does. It's federally illegal. Now we're seeing conditional license holders who are having trouble converting to annual licenses for that simple fact. The co-founder and chief operating officer of Cultivation Annual Licensee 1111 Wellness believes there's a lot of room for new cultivators in New Jersey. However, he believes that even with a conditional license, a secured property, and local approval, some aspiring cultivators will still have to come up with another 15 million or 20 million. Wow. I feel that's what's going to happen, is that there's going to be a flood of licenses issued, and then there's going to be many that don't open. Lifting the cultivation license cap is good for the New Jersey cannabis economy. I think there's just an incredible amount of demand. Consumers are feeling like they're stuck with somewhat secondary product because of all the real top tier stuff gets sold so quickly. It's so disappointing. I just hope that the state could really help people get open and be able to survive long term. John Ng, president of conditional cultivation licensee Aterna, also expects that's not all of New Jersey's up and coming cultivators will actually be able to turn the conditional licenses into annual licenses. They need to start operations. He says it's going to be entirely the availability of industrial real estate in friendly towns. That seems like a very, very key factor there. It's not unusual for new adult cannabis jurisdictions to face production shortfalls, but as some cultivators rush to come online, New Jersey could eventually face the dilemma seen in other more mature state cannabis markets. Too much cannabis supply puts downward pressure on prices, especially without the release valve of interstate commerce. For New Jersey, that risk looks far off. I'm not saying that they're going at a deliberate pace that doesn't come with challenges, but the one thing that we haven't seen is the boom and the bust. The CRC's Brown said New Jersey is a long away from having to worry about oversupply. It certainly sounds like it. We're going to move to our next story as I open up the next tab. Did it work? I always have to check. It did. Okay. If you're just tuning in, Al's gonna join me. I'm just solo right now. Okay. From Czech News, cannabis store owners want rules changed around visibility and safety. Oh, yes, please. Let's have that happen. The owner of Mood Cannabis says if he was allowed to have better visibility in his shop, it might not have been the target of a recent theft when a known dangerous offender entered the store. Ooh. We had a fellow come in and essentially rob us of an expensive high-end piece of glass, a bong, basically. So staff were pretty upset about that incident. And then the very next day, he came back to try and repeat the process, says Corey Waldron, owner of Mood Cannabis. He says if federal law didn't require him to block the view of the inside of the store from outside, in this case, he had window coverings, his staff would have been able to see the offender outside and possibly send an alarm and call the police. Bingo. Waldron has now removed the window coverings, but faces being fined if they're not reinstalled by the end of the month. Oh. Unfortunately, there's a regulation that says you're not allowed to be able to see any of the products through the glass, he says. And so we're trying to find a way where we can be compliant, but at the same time, safety is absolutely paramount with us. So we're super hesitant about putting window coverings back up. Thank you for caring about your staff. That Health Canada regulation is in place to prevent minors from seeing non-medical cannabis inside a store. It's a regulation. The co-owner of Coast Range Cannabis in Comex says it's unfair. Not the minors. Don't let them see it. No. When we have liquor stores that minors are allowed to go into with their parents, all the products are on display and all of the windows are glass. There are many visual enticements for minors in liquor stores, but they're not even allowed to see cannabis products through a window. Which one do you think they're going to want more? We're also worried about safety. And if someone is robbing the store, nobody outside can see what's happening inside. Can you imagine? Like, you can tell if somebody's a ship. Well, sometimes you can tell if someone's a shifty character. Like, if they're looking a little bit scary, you're going to be on the lookout for them. You're going to be a little bit more aware of that and, have your hand close to the panic button. But if you don't know, they're just going to come in. Guns blaring. Did I say that right? The BC Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch, which enforces the federal law, provided this information to this news article. Did I miss it? Effective June 2020, the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch removed the requirements that cannabis retail stores be enclosed by non-transparent walls and instead require that non-medical cannabis products packaging and labeling cannot be seen from outside the store. Okay, so this change was made following licensee and local government feedback. It gives CRSs the flexibility to configure their store features in a way that addresses employee safety while protecting minors from exposure to non-medical cannabis as legal and required by the Federal Cannabis Act. So basically, if you got to sort of block it out of view, do it in a way that you can keep the windows open. Although non-transparent windows are no longer a provincial requirement, it is up to the individual licensees to determine how and whether to make this change while remaining in compliance with legislation and applicable local government or Indigenous nation requirements. Provincial legislation and regulations regarding cannabis only have the authority to operate within the bounds of federal government legislation, which requires that non-medical cannabis products, accessories, packaging, and labeling not be displayed in a manner that would allow them to be visible to a young person. Oh my. Store owners tell Czech News that the laws still require products inside to be hidden from outside view. So some stores are erecting walls inside in front of the window, adding that this does nothing to improve safety for staff. Well, hopefully there's a way to fix it and sort of compromise. We're going to move on to our very last story of the day. No, of the break, of this part before we break. There we go. And hopefully Al will come back. Did I make this one? Share this tab instead. Okay. This one is from MJ Biz Daily. Ontario Chamber of Commerce calls on the province to allow cannabis lounges. Yes, I agree with you. I'm going to have lots of commentary here, Al. The largest provincial businesses advocacy body in Canada is calling on the Ontario government to allow cannabis consumption establishments as part of efforts to modernize and champion the sector. That was just one of 6 recommendations made by the Ontario Chamber of Commerce to address major hurdles inhibiting the growth potential of the industry. Barriers, it says, are determining investment and squeezing margins for stores and producers. Now, the recommendations were made in a public submission in Ontario's pre-budget consultation process. Industry sources have been calling for reform of the provincial and federal level for years. There's a quote here: "The Canadian cannabis industry remains conspicuously absent from income and cash flow, let alone profit." That comes from Dan Sutton. He's the CEO of British Columbia-based cannabis producer Tantulis Labs, saying also its cultivators and processors have never been profitable. And to this day, there are no demonstrable case studies of self-sustaining financial fundamentals across the supply side of the industry. Saying also, continued government inaction is disproportionately punitive to small businesses whom lack the treasury funds to sustain continued losses quarter after quarter. He wrote, he must be a word person. He loves his words. The Chamber's submissions noted that despite cannabis being one of the fastest growing sectors in Canada, an overly restrictive regulatory regime is putting a damper on the industry's economic potential. Now, the Chamber is recommending the province works with the federal government to ensure regulations strike the appropriate balance between safeguarding public health and ensuring cannabis companies can develop a distinct brand and product offerings that effectively compete with illegal actors. This just overregulation, and more overregulation. I'm just going to close that. Stop sharing. Okay. Because I wanted to. It was just too much for me. I think we're done at this time. We've finished our 5 stories. We're going to go to break. Hopefully Al is going to come back after the break. If he's not, we're just going to keep coming, talking and reading the articles. Okay, I'm supposed to read this. Break. It's time to hear from our sponsors and for us to take a break. I love this so much. It's time for us to take a break. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here on paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. This one.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at Pace Radio. PaceRadio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com. CBGTV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from, the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have two lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
Hello, I'm Reverend Kelly, and I'm back by myself because Al is late and will be along shortly. I'm reading my notes along the side that he left for me, and I'm certain there was more notes that I was supposed to be doing, Al, but I don't know. I am here doing this for the very first time, co-hosting my own coasting, doing a Pace Radio news broadcast by myself, and I have to put up all of these news articles, and I've never done it before, and I'm really excited to do it. I'm very excited to do it, Al. Let's see if I can do it. No, Trudeau, that's the one. Trudeau, did I do it the right way? Did it come up? We're ad-libbing this morning. It didn't come up. Okay, hold on. Look. Okay, see? We're just going with it. Having a good morning to you. It's the first day of spring. Oh yeah, we usually banter about the weather. Welcome, spring. I hope it's sunny where you are. So Trudeau, what have you done now? I mean, Trudeau, we love you so much. Okay, he says it's time for the government to catch up and support the cannabis industry. Oh, I might like him for this article. Can you see it? Hold on. I need to make sure you can see it. Okay, good. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau acknowledged the need for the government to catch up with the cannabis industry's concerns around issues like high taxation in a recent public event. Oh, I like it. In a town hall meeting on March 16th in Newfoundland and Labrador, Trudeau responded to comments from Taylor Giovanni, the owner of a local cannabis producer and retailer, Oceanic Relief. Giovanni shared her concerns with the challenges that businesses like hers face due to issues like high taxes and reluctant banks. The cannabis industry has been calling for reforms to the federal excise tax rate for years now, arguing that it ends up taking as much as 30% or more of the revenue. For the fiscal year of 2018-2019, the first year of legalization, the CRA assessed $71,922,000 for cannabis duty on dried fresh cannabis flower and $19,500,000 and change for cannabis extracts including edible, ingestible cannabis oil for a total of 91 million, almost 92 million. Jeez. For fiscal year 2019-2020, the CRS, it's just going to go through them, like lots more, like 229 million for all of that. Now, many cannabis companies in Canada have long found it difficult to find and keep a bank or other lending institution or even maintain an account, right? Happened to me, with one producer recently even filing a lawsuit against several Canadian banks. They're changing their ways, but not as fast as we need them to, right? Giovanni told Saltwire that the first cannabis retail store she opened almost collapsed when the Bank of Montreal canceled their business account. People lost PayPal accounts, Square accounts, like they're just mean. Challenges faced by cannabis businesses in Canada trying to get and keep relationships with lending institutions is well known. Many banks unwilling to do business with what they seem as an uncertain industry. Some have turned to smaller lending institutions like credit unions, some of which have leaned into the gap left by larger banks. Now, Giovanni's question for Trudeau was asking the new cannabis industry will see some relief on these issues, especially in light of the federal legislative review of the Cannabis Act, which is currently going on very late. It was supposed to start, but it's on right now. In its response, Trudeau first brought up the government's historical public health-focused messaging around legalization, but noted that now that the legal system is established, the government has a need to take a look at ensuring those businesses who stepped up in the new industry that can survive. Here's his quote. "We didn't legalize so that there would be growth in jobs and opportunity. We legalized out of public health concern. The current situation was not keeping Canadians safe. It was giving kids too easy access to cannabis. It was fueling the black market and then turning around and fueled all sorts of other illegal activities. And we made the decision on health and a health basis. If we had gone into this saying, okay, let's design a burgeoning new industry that we can create success, we might have made some different choices, but we looked at it from a public health and safety standard." Now that we've got this public health and safety stuff out of the way, do we, Justin? Or on the way, I think you're absolutely right that we should absolutely take a much closer look at, okay, what do we do then to make sure that this is beneficial for the industry? Why couldn't we do that at the same time? All these people that have lost their whole lives. You can say, well, it's a drug, but boy, are we ever proud of our wineries across Canada. Are we ever proud of our microbreweries? These are consumption choices. People are evolving. And I can understand that the people who stepped up into this industry in its infancy are being part of the growing pains. And we will try and make sure that we're capturing your concerns as we look at a renewal of the act, which we knew we were going to need to do, which you did late, and people have lost their entire lives. I'm having a hard time with this one. I'm sorry, I'm trying to bite my lip a little bit here. This is not good enough. This is not good enough. There is a little more clarity about how the industry is evolving, and it's easy to say 10 years from now, 50 years from now, it will be great. Right now, you're in the industry, you have payroll, you're trying to make, and you're trying to support people. We want to try and get there for you as well. But this was done not because we were going to create jobs with it, although we knew that would happen. It was done out of public health and justice. But hopefully, we're going to be able to catch up and support the real positive industry that it has become. That was created and positive, created by the industry, by the community, not by the big businesses, and certainly not by the government. It was created by the patients, and they were the ones that were left out. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going back to the article. He said I could do my own commentary if I wanted. The Cannabis Act Review Panel had been engaging with numerous cannabis industry stakeholders, patient groups, and others across Canada since the full panel was announced in 2022. The group is tasked with then compiling a report for the government based on the feedback, which will be presented in the House of Commons likely in early 2024. That's how long we're waiting for it to be presented, and then possibly some changes will be made. By then, it will be 5 years that our country will be legalized. In addition, as part of the budget 2022, the federal government noted that as the legal in cannabis industry in Canada grows, there are opportunities for the federal government to streamline, strengthen, and adapt the cannabis excise duty framework specifically, and other excise duty regimes under the Excise Act 2001 accordingly. I guess that work is being conducted in part by ISEED, Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada. And that's the federal agency that focuses on increasing Canada's share of global trade. I think they should remove that excise tax or make it more fair. Oh, are you here?
I am here. I made it back.
Yay! I don't know. You're going to have to watch what happened. I fumbled my way through. We got through.
Did you? Hey, that happens.
First try.
Even if I was fumbling happens.
Yeah, I didn't play any weird videos or anything. So I think I got all of the news articles up. I think.
All right. Well, I'll have to watch. I'll have to watch it back to see how you made out.
Appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks for doing that. Well, I had my appointment.
Yes.
And but now I'm back. So
here we go.
You continue and let me know where you're at so I can find your story.
Okay, we're on the CannExpo one. We're
CannExpo. Okay.
There we go. We're third from the end.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. That's all you.
You keep going.
Do you want me to keep reading taking?
Yeah, I don't know where you're at in the story.
Oh no, we're just starting.
Oh,
I'm going to start. CannExpo, a groundbreaking cannabis retail show, is coming to Toronto, March 24th to 26th. There we go. I know it's a picture of me. I just want to close the picture of me. Are you taking over showing yours then, or am I showing?
You go ahead and close. I will. I can bring it up. Sure.
Watch this. I did it, Al. There we go. Did it work?
There you go.
Okay, my friend. There we go.
Yes.
There we go. Funny little picture of myself and the wonderful team that is supporting CannExpo.
Exactly. Yeah, the recreational cannabis industry shows no signs of slowing down. A brand new customers and retail show aims to bring bud tenders, retailers, and cannabis consumers and the cannabis curious together in a unique way.
It's making its way to Toronto's Enercare Centre at Exhibition Place this weekend, March 24 to 26. CannExpo is promising to be packed and bustling with the aim of educating, entertaining, and igniting the passion Canadians have for legal cannabis consumption.
Attendees can expect a jam-packed weekend filled with who's who of the cannabis crowd in attendance, including main stage guests like Cody Van Gogh, a joint rolling expert who counts Snoop Dogg and Machine Gun Kelly as fans, Abby Roach, a world-renowned driving force in cannabis advocacy who made history with her fight for legalization, and none other than Jack Kungo, a 69-year-old prophet of the cannabis movement whose revolutionary journey with death's door was documented in Jack's garage.
Guests will be entertained by the show's daily competitions, including So You Think You Can Cook with Cannabis, featuring celebrity chef judges Jordan Wagman, Vito Blaze, and the Ganja Mama, while educational sessions include Women in Cannabis, a roundtable of 8 important women in the industry.
On the CannExpo floor, Canada's best breeders and cannabis brands will showcase the latest in gear and accessories for rolling and grinding, CBD wellness, storage and jewelry, organic hemp clothing, seeds, infused cooking and baking will also be on display. Tickets are $20 per day, $45 for the entire weekend.
What do you think? What do you think of that? Okay, so I'm asking you, based on somebody that has been putting these kinds of cannabis shows and expos together for a very long time, what's that price like? What do you think of that price?
$20.
$20?
Is that good? Back to the Treating Yourself Expo days, $20, and that was 12 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so we are at the same price as we would have been to go to this kind of show 12 years ago.
Yeah, and I think probably a lot of the other events are around that $20 to get in. Yeah, that's normal.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good to know that they're on par. And so you're going to be there on Friday.
Correct. I'm coming
You're
down
going to
Friday
come
morning. I'll be there by
nominated
noon.
for one of the
Yes.
awards, the Cannabis Influencer and Community Awards. So lots happening, and it will be broadcast live on KJL TV, and then of course through CBG TV as well,
Yeah, we'll
through
be
the whole
down
thing.
there.
So if you
Yes.
can't, if you can't come for whatever reason, maybe you're out of province or you just can't make it in, you can watch it on KGL TV the whole time.
Exactly. It'll be on
Yeah.
KGL TV
Yeah.
when we're done with the awards. We'll be going around on the CBG TV end and talking to the vendors and anybody. If I see you on the floor and you haven't got fire under your boots because you're running somewhere,
Yeah. That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah, we'll grab you. You know, hey, a few words from Rev Kelly. How's things going?
Okay, maybe I'm not going to talk to you though. I'm going to be a little bit busy on this stage, but I'll try very
You're
hard.
going to be. You're going to be. All right. So I see you got the next story up. Canadian patients demand access to psilocybin as they take the federal government to court.
This is an ongoing case. If it succeeds, Canada may be legally mandated to legislate a national psilocybin-assisted therapy program, perhaps similar to that of the state like Oregon.
Yeah. Back on July the 27th in 2022, patients suffering from cancer, depression, cluster headaches, and other serious health concerns, as well as one healthcare practitioner, sued Canada's federal government. And in the lawsuit, they're asserting a constitutional right to medicinal magic mushrooms access rooted in S7 of Canada's Constitutional Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Now, the case is ongoing. If it succeeds, I already said that one. Let's try again.
Yep.
In 2022, due to extensive lobbying efforts by BC-based nonprofit advocacy group TheraPsil, Health Canada began sporadically granting 56 exemptions or 56 exemption requests for
Section 56. Yeah.
Section 56. I know it's hard to see. Request for psilocybin assisted therapy under Canada's Controlled Drugs and Substances Act.
Yeah. These exceptions allowed applicants in Canada legal access to psilocybin outside the context of clinical studies for the first time in decades. But the exceptions weren't subject to any standard procedure. There wasn't even a form one could fill out. Patients would just write Health Canada letters. The Ministry of Health could basically choose to grant, deny, or ignore requests at their whim.
Now, pressed for a better means of access, again, largely by TheraPsil, Health Canada amended Special Access Program regulations in January 2022. The rule change permitted those seeking access to psilocybin or MDMA-assisted therapy to apply by having their physician fill out and submit a Health Canada form. Applicants would be eligible for access through the SAP if they were suffering from a serious or life-threatening condition for which other conventional treatments had failed.
Though many expected this to make accessing psilocybin-assisted therapy easier, it hasn't played out that way. On the contrary, Health Canada has been incredibly stingy in granting SAP requests for psilocybin-assisted therapy. Furthermore, the rules applicable with respect to the SAP sometimes lead to ridiculous results, like psilocybin doses being strictly prescribed to the point that patients can't deviate even slightly from the predefined amounts of any given session. So if a patient is reticent about taking a certain dosage they perceived as too high, well, too bad.
Okay, so let's talk about the lawsuit. The Hardo plaintiffs have all applied for access to psilocybin, either via Section 56 or SAP. In some cases, their applications were denied even after they'd been previously granted an approval for which they were seeking a renewal. Accordingly, having reached the limit of their frustration, they decided to file suit with TheraPsil's help against the federal government. Yes.
There's the fellow right there, Mr. Hardo, right there. He was just denied there last week after waiting 500 days.
Jeez.
Yeah. The plaintiff's claim argues that access to psilocybin-assisted therapy solely via Section 56 or the SAP were where a requesting patient seeks access for treatment of a serious health issue fails to provide patients with constitutional viable access. The argument possess that patients should be able to rely on a personal physician with a duty to put the well-being of their patients first, to always act for the benefit of the patient and to promote the good of the patient. They shouldn't have to focus their hopes on distant and unknown bureaucrats in Ottawa.
Canada's psychedelic law community had actually contemplated a lawsuit like Hartle for some. After all, it's how Canadians first garnered access to lawful medical cannabis about 20 years ago. So it's the same route that everybody went before.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
And this is what we're about to outline here. And that's in the 2000s, R versus Parker, Torontarian Terry Parker was charged with various offenses relating to cannabis use to treat his own severe epilepsy. As Parker told the Ontario Court of Appeal, though, cannabis was all that effectively controlled his seizures.
Parker claimed a right to access cannabis for his medical purposes under Section 7 of the Charter, which guarantees persons in Canada a right to life, liberty, and security of the person. Since without cannabis, Parker couldn't live life as he chose, namely without constant seizures.
The court found Parker's argument persuasive. Cannabis was necessary medicine for him per the text of the decision. The court was not, however, persuaded by the government's arguments that the danger of cannabis was so great as to make medical legalization a threat to the function of society, nor was it persuaded that Parker had sufficient access to medical cannabis all along via a Section 56.
Of course, it was successful, and then Canada got its first regulated, I love how it writes, albeit highly imperfect, medical cannabis program the year later, and then it's asking, is Hartle the new Parker? Could be.
I see it as the new Parker. I can see that. Exactly. If one swaps psilocybin for cannabis in the Parker ruling, do we arrive at the same result? Probably, but that doesn't mean the ruling in Parker will automatically apply in Hartle.
Parker's central question was never addressed by the Supreme Court of Canada, and in any event, the case law since then has changed considerably. In some ways, it's moved away from the Ontario Court of Appeals approach in Parker, though in other respects, the court has expanded Canadians' liberty interest under Section 7 in ways that could favor Hartle's plaintiffs. The Supreme Court 2015 Carter decision granting a constitutional right to access medical cannabis in dying being the principal example.
Wow, yeah. That decision and further ones, regulations to the program under which MAD is administered remains a flashpoint in Canadian society, though in light of MAD legalization, the programs in the works regulations for eligibility solely on the mental health grounds may find the difficulty of access to psilocybin-assisted therapy not just baffling, but horrifying. Should Canadians have easier access to medical assisted death than psilocybin assisted life? I don't think so.
No.
Don't they say try everything first?
Yep. Does it sound like that? Does it sound the way that it was like back in those old cases when we got the medical cannabis regulations? Does it sound like that's going to be this way with this hurdle?
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to go along that way, and they may be try not to have it so it's a free for all. Everybody growing mushrooms, but yeah, exactly. Wow. It's this is a bit of a long story, but it's good to see what's going on, and I can see that happening where people will, it's going to change over. Same idea as cannabis.
Court cases.
I see you got the next story up. I'm used to being on the other side.
I know. Here it is. I know. So I know it's a little bit of a long one, but I think you were saying that you were even just thinking about this before you found this article. So it's important that we mention it.
Yeah. As I was telling you before the show, I was wondering, how many states have made changes to their laws on psychedelics, and because we've always sort of looked at it on the same way when it came to cannabis. Looking at it, how many states have legalized cannabis? I mean, they're not all legalized. for medicinal or legal, but they're pretty close for recreational. I mean, but here, as this headline says, there are 22 states where psychedelic bills are being proposed or considered. So that's getting pretty close to half the U.S. states.
Wow. That's progress right there. It says in the first months of 2023, the state-level psychedelic policy reform has been so constant that it is hard to view it as a passing trend. When the first reported legalization proposal was a pre-filed measure in New York, many states have been following suit, and the list is current as of March 13th, 2023.
So let's, I see we haven't got a lot of time to go through each state, but we can mention the places passed bills: Oklahoma, Washington, Hawaii.
Yep. Psychedelic bills, Nevada, Texas, California, Missouri. Wow, this one's big.
Yeah. These are going through committees. So these are in the process.
Yep. They're going through.
Missouri, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Maryland, Vermont, Minnesota.
We got Connecticut, Illinois, Iowa,
Massachusetts, Arizona, West Virginia, New York, New Hampshire.
Holy, Utah and Virginia. There's so many. And then it goes on to talk about Michigan. And what's saying about that one?
Massachusetts.
Another state. They're greatly advanced, is what they're saying. That's so many.
Yeah.
Bravo. Nice long list there.
It's a long list. Like, holy smokes.
That's a good
one. You know, we keep reporting on those, but and so that's what made me wonder, like, how many states have gotten to that point of legalization? And, you know, eventually you would think that the government's got to take notice. Like,
hello.
You would have thought they would have.
With cannabis, though. Where's the federal legalization for our plant?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, all right. Well, anything else you want to touch on before we go?
I need a doobie now after this one, Al. It was very, it was like, I was like, am I going to do it wrong? I'll let you do the closing. You can take over that.
All right.
Thank you so much. I'm glad spring is here. Happy spring equinox. And we hope to see you all at CannExpo.
Yes, exactly. Other than that, that's the report for March the 20th, 2023 from the 420.com news desk. Let's see what else. Oh, don't forget to thank our guests, our sponsors. There we go. Because I haven't got my notes in front of me. Legacy420.com and the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. And don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.